Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Undiscovered Decade, a podcast where we take a look back at the 1990s and try to find some of the hidden gems that we left behind. We're up to May 1992, and we saw a film with two of our favorite actors. It's One False Move.
Yeah, it's the debut for screenwriting duo Billy Bob Thornton and his screenwriting partner Tom Epperson. And the two character actors that we're talking about are Billy Bob Thornton and Bill Paxton, who've collaborated on two other movies that we'll probably talk about later. And I'm pretty sure this was like their screenwriting debut. They probably written some spec scripts, and Billy Bob Thornton had been in other movies, but this was like his launch pad. And I'm pretty sure this is maybe like Bill Paxton's first leading role.
Yeah, I can't think of anything that he was the lead in before this.
Yeah.
And Billy
also a calling card for Carl Franklin, the director, who would do some other like kind of neo-noir movies like Devil in a Blue Dress and Out of Time with Denzel.
Yeah, this was kind of a launching pad for all three of them because they go on to bigger and better things. Even if Bill Paxton had been in stuff like Aliens,
right?
He was a supporting actor.
Yeah, he's mostly the comic relief and stuff like that.
And Thornton gets big after he does another one with Epperson, Sling Blade. Or no, he doesn't do it. He does it solo. That was the funny thing, looking up all his writing credits. It's the only one he doesn't do with Epperson, and he wins an Oscar for it.
Yeah,
but at least for this is what is their calling card.
Yeah, and this is like a hard-boiled crime drama in which Billy Bob Thornton and his partners in crime are on the lam because they have a habit of taking down drug syndicates, taking their money, and then running off and then going to the next gig. They use up all their money, ingest all the drugs, and then they have to get their next fix at the next town. And his girlfriend is insisting that they go back to Star City, Arizona,
Arkansas.
Sorry,
another A state.
Because every time I see Arkansas, I always think Arkansas.
Yeah.
So
plus they're going through. They cut through the south to try to get to. They think they're going to Philly. I think.
Yeah, they almost do like
they tell somebody that they're going to Philly. Somebody says something like as a way to be like, oh no, we're going this way.
Yeah. Throw them off the trail.
Either throw them off the trail or just to make sure like no cops like traces them to start because they know they're being pursued.
Yeah, so
there's one posters and what posters and like
they hear their radio hits, I guess.
Yeah. I thought maybe there was like
they see their faces on the news report.
Yeah, something like that. Like it comes up, then they're aware that they are definitely on the run from the law.
Yeah.
Because
they brutally murdered several people.
Yeah, and like one of their cohorts, I forget his character's name. The black
guy. It's Michael Beach.
It's
Pluto.
Yeah, there we go. Pluto. Pluto is a bit of a psychopath. He's super intelligent, but like
he's not really loose cannon though.
Yeah, but like he's
very methodical.
He did deliberately leave evidence like on video because they did break into a party where there was a camcorder and they're celebrating and then like he could have deleted it or got rid of it, but he left it on purpose. Like a calling card.
He's the brains of the operation, but he's also like the quiet, dangerous one because of that.
Right. I mean, it's not to say that people don't make mistakes in the movie, but if you go into this movie, I guess is a theme of the movie. If you underestimate any of the characters, all the characters surprise you in one way or the other in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, nobody can all make one wrong move.
Nobody can really be stereotyped. But as Jimmy was saying, on their coattails are the FBI, and since they already know that they're on their way to Star City, they contact the local police, and the sheriff there happens to be Dale Hurricane Dixon, played by Bill Paxton, who's very eager to work in consolidation with the FBI.
Yeah.
So it's basically, are they FBI or were they like LA?
I'm pretty sure they're FBI.
I don't remember. I thought they were detectives, but it could be.
Maybe I'm assuming they're FBI because I was getting a strong Twin Peaks vibe.
And the actors never really registered anywhere else, so I didn't really care what they were.
Yeah.
You really care about
because I know one of the things about Bill Paxton's character, he was excited about working with them, but he was like, hey, you think I could like transfer to the big city in LA where they're from
Yeah,
to
I think they're cops. But
yeah, to
either
like,
way.
you know, get out of a small town.
Yeah.
He's kind of a gung-ho like small town
Yeah.
cop.
And obviously he's the big fish in town because he's basically the only cop. So to transfer to any city, he's not going to really last as long as he
His
thinks he will.
deputy's fishing most of the time.
Yeah.
Well, he's a retired cop from Detroit, one of his deputies. So like that's taking it easy.
Yeah. But so they know that it's basically going to be a collision between these two forces because they have to eventually get to Star City. So the FBI comes out there and he's very hospitable with them. And I think just through that, you could easily generalize that Bill Paxton's basically playing the character that Bill Paxton usually plays. He's very gregarious. He's very homespun. He talks a lot. He's very loquacious. And
Which
he's,
I think is like how he really is.
yeah, which
What I've heard
is very much like him. So later in the movie, when you find out something about his character, you're like, wow, never would have suspected that. Although they do leave you clues.
Oh, they start off with a red herring almost, because like you kind of get the hint, like because it is Arkansas and like he's a sheriff in a small town, like and he's staring at a black dude and his son. You kind of go like, is he a racist? And like he drops the N-word quite a few times, which make you go like, he's probably a racist.
very
But
casually.
then I'll let you take the rest from
Well,
there.
yeah, and then even his wife apologizes for behavior, and she's like, he grew up like that. He doesn't mean anything by it.
Mhm.
But then there's a revelation later in the movie, which I'm sure we'll get to, that kind of recontextualizes everything you know about him or think about him. And that's a great scene with his character. Everybody's so multifaceted in this movie. So later when you were talking about he wants to get promoted to the big city, there's a scene where he's eavesdropping on the two agents talking about him. And just the shot of him is so heartbreaking as he's listening to these two guys basically demoralize him.
Mhm.
I think it's one of the best pieces of acting he's ever done.
Just two bad guys, one bad girl, and one complex character in a bad situation.
And after that scene, you're like, okay, I could easily dismiss these two FBI agents because they're disrespectful to him and they think he's a country bumpkin, but they're not incompetent and they're not sloppy, and you still have some reverence for them because they're doing their job. And they
But then
don't
you also
be
have to take-
loggerheads at all, and he doesn't confront them about it.
No,
Yeah.
he knows where his place is, and he knows that his dreams are kind of out of reach, especially at this point.
Right.
So I
But-
think he just wants to prove something to himself, and this might be the only chance he has. So I think he's gonna let it go so that he can at least finish this.
Yeah,
And you know that he
Yeah.
goes lone wolf by the end, so he kind of knows what's gonna happen.
I think he kind of has to
I
go
feel like
based on his backstory. But like back with the two cops, like kind of basically making fun of him behind his back, but they don't realize that he is behind their backs when they do it. I don't think he fully comprehends that, like, you know, big city cops or just anybody from any big city around this country, that's kind of one of their shticks anywhere, like just the bullshit and like kind of poke fun, and they don't mean anything by it. So like when they catch
Billy Bob Thornton.
no, not Billy, but like when they turn around and realize
When they catch
Dale.
yeah,
Okay.
when they realize that he listened to the whole time,
Yeah.
they like
Dale.
you could genuinely see in their eyes that they actually feel sorry for what they said. But
Right.
like that's kind of how like
You can't explain what the
Yeah.
joke is because he feels like the punchline.
whereas like Paxton's character, he's from a small city in the middle of nowhere, so like generally people like that are as honest as they can be and like kind of polite and hokey.
Mhm.
So like he probably never understood or will never understand that kind of like cultural difference.
Japes, the japes.
Japes, yeah, the japes, because like
Yeah.
You mentioned that there's a big secret that Bill Paxton has, and it's not like we're going to hide the spoilers, but Cinda Williams at this time was, I think they became boyfriend and
They
girlfriend.
were married at the time of the movie.
They got married right after it filmed.
Yeah, but this doesn't come
Oh,
out
is
for
that right?
2
Okay.
years. So by the time it actually came out, they divorced, which is kind of funny.
I mean, it's Hollywood.
But I thought she did a pretty good job. She becomes the most complex character because what happens is, since she wants to go back to Star City, it's because she has a son back home. And as we watch Bill Paxton discover everything about the trio as he's going around, try to figure out how to plant a trap essentially for them, he hopes. He realizes that she has a son, and where would that son have come from? You realize as it dawns over his face that it's his son. And they kind of hinted it there because he gets way too taken aback by the son.
Yeah.
And then
And
eventually it's very apparent because
Even the one guy agent.
and to note, the black guy with the kid earlier in the movie, where I was like, said that you suspect that he might be racist. That's his kid.
Oh,
That's the kid. Yeah, no,
Okay.
that's basically the kid and his
His
the uncle. Yeah. But like you assume that
Fantasia's brother,
you assume it's the black guy and the black guy's the dad and the kid is the son. No, it's uncle and nephew.
yeah.
I think the movie's also, the screenwriting at least, is intelligent enough where they don't try to spring it on you like it's a soap opera twist.
No,
At one point, the FBI agent was like, "How do you exactly know her?" And Dale's like, gets really defensive, and he's like, "You know what? Let's just fucking go."
yeah.
And you're like, well, now I kind of suspect where this is headed. So when they
Right.
do kill it, you're like, okay, that makes logical sense.
Checked out.
The behavior from before.
Yeah. I think they did it naturally enough, and the big finale feels earned that way because then he almost has the confrontation that you would have when you find out you have a kid with someone, but it's within this really tense trap for the other two.
Well,
And then it goes
also,
layers
a kid
deep.
that he had out of wedlock from his own marriage, who's,
Right.
who's like two or 3 years younger than his daughter with his wife.
Yeah, she was
So, like,
17 at the
fair.
time. So you find out like another, like not only does he have, you know, a son, but he also has had a son after knocking up a 17-year-old while
Right.
sheriff of the
Yeah,
town.
there's
So
no
like
way-
that's like the layers just keep going down.
Right.
It's just turtles all the way down, man.
Yeah, and you still sort of empathize with Bill Paxton, despite how bad he actually is.
Well, yeah, because
Not
doesn't
all
do
that good.
all these characters have, well, except maybe Billy Bob Thornton. There's a gray area
Yeah,
of these characters.
yeah, Rizzo's an asshole.
Yeah, he's despicable from beginning.
Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton's really good at playing white trash.
He really is. There's a
Little too
part.
good.
He I think he either got heavier for the role or he was already kind of heavy at the time. But there's a part that's
No, he might have been already heavy
He may have been.
because he was a little bit chunky with when Tombstone
The,
came out.
the
Like,
next thing he
yeah.
does is Tombstone, just like Bill. Both of them are then in Tombstone together.
Yeah.
So
But just
I
how
think he put on a movie after this.
how unctuous and oily he is when he's eating that fried chicken on the bed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You want some of this, baby?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's the twitchiest, though. I really like how nervous he is in the
I was
convenience.
gonna say he's the biggest loose cannon,
Yeah.
more so than Michael Beach.
That's the interesting thing. You don't really know what Michael Beach actually wants because he keeps trying to get rid of Fantasia. And he's like, she's the loose end here. But why do you want the twitchy guy who's going to give you away to the cops and end up you have to
well,
kill the
because
cop?
he knows he's loyal to the cause
Yeah.
or the effort.
Right.
And he
Whereas,
doesn't
he's
really want
muscle.
Fantasia.
whereas Fantasia, like she was
Mhm.
like she wasn't like she didn't want to be a participant in the whole thing, but she went along with it because her boyfriend was involved. So
Right.
So it was like she didn't have much of a choice, whereas Billy Bob Thornton, like
Right.
Well, that's
he was a criminal. He's a
That's
criminal.
like-
This is his job. So like you
Yeah.
can trust him, but not her.
Yeah. Yeah, I get
the
it.
the title itself. You know, One False Move. Some people are just like, oh, that has nothing to do with anything in the movie. I'm like, well, no, it totally sets up the tone of the movie because, like,
Puts it in your head.
you see this loose cannon, you see this quiet one, you see this
wants
woman
to get out.
who you're not quite sure where her allegiance lies and everything, and then all of this stuff is like one false move can just screw everybody over.
You know what, Jim?
Um,
Based on that, you know what epitomizes the title is the scene where they're pulled over by the state police.
Yeah.
And then everything's going fine. They're very cordial until Billy Bob Thornton says, then why the fuck did you pull us over?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it goes south very quickly. So just that one false move that he made just turned the tide. And she became, no spoiler again, she became a murderer instead of just an accomplice.
Yeah. It's funny because like throughout the whole movie, there's a lot of false moves.
Yeah. The one
Yeah.
thing I think is with criminals like this, do you think it's always going to end this way? There's a rare situation where it's like Shawshank Redemption, you sort of get away with it.
Right.
Even though he obviously didn't really do
Well,
crime,
Shawshank
he was-
Redemption.
That's a
like,
different
that was planned out over decades.
Yeah, so it's the thing is in a film like this,
Also, he was
specifically-
unjustly accused.
There, yeah, I know that was a bad metaphor, or bad example. The three of them are just trying to get away, but it's so fresh in everyone's mind. There's a manhunt. They're not going to get away from the manhunt unless they had a plan to begin with, and so you don't even need to make one false move. Is it inevitable that they'll be caught, whether it's in Star City or back in Los Angeles or wherever they're going to end up, because
if
they
they
don't
had
want to do
split
it
the
again.
money, if they had split the money, Pluto was planning on just leaving and going his separate
Right.
ways. So
But would Billy Bob Thornton get caught? Would Michael Beach get caught later? I think it's inevitable that these people have some sort of comeuppance.
it's fatalistic, and I'm sure there's a inexorability where it's just inevitable that this is going to come to a head at one point,
Yeah,
whether it's Star City or somewhere else.
right. And I think at least this film wants it to come to a head because of Bill Paxton. So it kind of
Right.
has to happen in Star City. It's not really about the three of them. It's more about Paxton.
Right.
Party's got to end sometime.
Yeah.
Then they'll try to like split up, and at first it's a strategic thing, and then it's just and then
It's a practical
Pluto and Ray were gonna split up, but then they found out that Fantasia took the money.
Yeah, and I mean that's sort of when you figure out her plan. It was just to give the money to her kid.
Yeah.
So I guess they do get away with it in the end because that kid ends up with the money.
Maybe.
Well, the uncle has it, doesn't he?
I mean, luckily there's no epilogue. I mean, they would have. I'm sure they would.
Yeah, I do really like the final shot, even though
The
it's
final
a
shot's
little
brilliant.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's a really good final shot.
Yeah, no, it's a great final shot. Like
Yeah.
it tugs at the heartstrings, but then also like maybe you want a little more pull on them heartstrings because like damn.
I think it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
You want more sadness?
Yeah, I want to
Because
cry,
I didn't need
man.
I didn't need to.
I don't
cut
like
to
happy
the
endings.
epilogue that would have felt.
Yeah, I'm just glad they didn't cut to like, the title cards at the end, like so and so grew up to be the next
Oh,
chief of police.
lawyer.
And
I think
Yeah.
also like before the term systemic racism came up, ever was coined, or I don't know. It kind of leads into that. Like there's a bit of a cycle that could repeat itself.
Sure.
Even if the kid did get money, like it just sets a tone for like what's his future going to be like. I think that like that ambiguity kind of like
Well,
goes
even
into that too.
Yeah, I mean,
the fact that he had this child, this biracial child, you're just like, was the sex between them consensual? Did he rape her? You're not sure because they're not. I mean, she's a little more amenable about it because she said, "I never meant to cause you any trouble."
right.
Yeah.
So she never went and told his wife or anything. So you're
Yeah.
not quite sure if she seduced him to get out of like. You can deduce these things in your mind. The good thing about the movie is it doesn't spell it out for you.
Right. Yeah, I got the sense that it seems like you might have gotten a different idea, like she had done a crime and he offered a way out of it. I was thinking she was
Right.
informed about someone else that had done a crime, maybe her brother or something.
Yeah, you're
And
not quite sure.
So you don't really need to know.
Right.
But something happened where there was an exchange to make sure bad things didn't happen. But that's the bad thing that sort of happens.
Right.
So I think that's the impetus of the film. I mean, if that didn't happen, they wouldn't be going towards Arkansas. So she kind of makes the other two criminals go that way.
I think it's a great.
Ray, her boyfriend, like he has an uncle out there, so like he
Yeah, he thinks they're just going to Texas.
Yeah,
well,
yeah,
they're trying to sell off the stuff too. In
yeah.
Texas.
So
I guess there's like 3 avenues they're sort of going to.
I mean, they're using a lot of it on the way. So.
Yeah.
You can tell that at least one, since Billy Bob Thornton's an actor, that he wrote really juicy roles for the other actors. Like this is almost like a Goodwill Hunting. Like they wrote this as material that they could show off skills with something like this. And he's very generous because he gives Bill Paxton a hell of a role in this.
Yeah.
I want to point out, because I don't know if you guys like him as much as I do, but Michael Beach, he's a jerk in a lot of films, in Soul Food and what's the other big one he was in?
Waiting to Exhale.
Yeah, Waiting to Exhale. So he's kind of a jerk in all these movies, or a psychopath in this. He was the nicest character on the show Third Watch that came out around 2000, lasted a few years. He's the head paramedic. And so that's what I knew him from. I thought he was the coolest guy. And he shows up in all these films as an asshole. So I really like that he actually had this streak where he could show off a range between that show and these.
It's almost like Andre Brower.
Yeah.
Jerk and everything.
Yeah. And he's
I heard Brooklyn Nine-Nine. I heard he's
great in Brooklyn Nine-Nine, but he's nice in that. So I guess it's kind of the same idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just happy to see Michael Beach get a good, a juicy performance. So he also gets a good,
I think
a well-written.
this might be my first Michael Beach.
You never saw him in anything?
I don't think I've seen it.
I know you never saw Third Watch.
Yeah.
I would
he's mostly a television.
So like I just.
Yeah, he's also an Aquaman. If he's.
Oh, I didn't see
that.
Aquaman. No, yeah.
He showed up as Manta's father or whatever that character is. So
Black
Manta? He's having a little, I guess. I don't know. I barely watch it. It's the dude that played Morpheus recently. He's the villain in Aquaman.
Oh.
And Michael Beach plays his father. And the reason that he's a villain is because Aquaman kills his father, I think, in the first scene. I don't remember. The movie's very forgettable.
The movie's
I never bothered seeing Aquaman.
I keep getting Aquaman characters confused with the SpongeBob knockoff.
Yeah.
You're better off with that.
SpongeBob 3 where
Merman.
Yeah. But Michael Beach
Ray.
has a bit of a resurgence, so it's good to see him come around too. Cinda Williams unfortunately never really showed up in anything else. So.
Fun fact about this movie. Apparently this was Gene Siskel's favorite movie of 1992.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
You know what? Might be mine. I don't know.
Yeah. I know because of that, that's what pushed this further into the public consciousness.
Yeah.
Because this barely came out. It got 15th at the box office, made like $44,000 total. So it was not in theaters very long.
It was supposed to go straight to video.
Yeah. Though it keeps having this sort of, people want it to be discovered. So it got put into theaters after audiences liked it enough to get it put into theaters, but it still didn't make any money. So then Siskel likes it.
I was gonna say the weird thing is,
And that's where we come in. This is our responsibility.
Yeah.
well, I was gonna say, I think this is a case where Siskel and Ebert gave it 2 thumbs up, and they heavily advertised it with their endorsement. So I think their stamp of approval actually helped the movie a bit.
Yeah.
Which it did with like stuff like Hoop Dreams and some other things that people were kind of sleeping on at the time.
Right.
So it's actually one of the prime examples of when critics actually make a difference in getting word of mouth out there.
Right.
Surprisingly.
I don't know that happens anymore, especially with
It doesn't happen anymore, really.
But this 90s were prime for people like Siskel and Ebert, at least, to push things.
Right.
But
do we want to wrap it up? Anybody else got any other thoughts about it?
I'm trying to think. I don't really.
Grades?
I mean, the other film we were going to bring up, I'm sure we might talk about it later again, but the other film that Bill Paxton and Billy Bob Thornton do later is A Simple Plan, which is also written by Thornton and Epperson, directed by Sam Raimi.
No, they didn't write it.
They didn't write it? I thought. Was it Sam Raimi that wrote it?
They wrote The Gift with Sam Raimi.
That's the next thing they do together. Okay. But either way, Bill Paxton's with Thornton in A Simple Plan, which
That's another fantastic movie too. That
I love even more. Similarly,
it's actually a better version of No Country for Old Men.
yeah, it's basically No Country for Old Men in a one spot. So,
But
uh,
I would probably give it an A plus.
Hmm.
I think it's hard boiled. It's intelligent. It shows that crime dramas don't have to be just shoot 'em ups. You can actually have deep layered characterizations with stuff like this.
I mean, it did have a shoot 'em up at the end, so
It did, but it wasn't. It wasn't.
First
Purely,
pick.
it wasn't purely for kinetic's sake.
yeah, no, it wasn't like
It was-
like a shoot
it
'em
was
up. shoot 'em
deeply
up. It was
ingrained
just
in,
shootouts.
yeah,
Yeah, it was deeply ingrained in like his desire to prove himself to the FBI and his heroics, his kind of hero complex. So everything was character motivated, which was good with this movie. I thought I love it.
I think you guys made me like this more than I did before we started recording.
Oh,
I was kind of down on the film because I think the quality of the film itself lends itself to have kind of a low budget feel, which, yeah, they're just starting out. So I kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt.
okay.
But there were a lot of plot points that I was like, okay, I guess I just have to accept what these characters are doing. So I
Yeah.
wasn't really excited about the writing per se.
Did we have a goddamn count?
Yeah.
That seemed to be like
Sit
Billy
down,
Bob's
God damn it.
only like his catchphrase in the film was God damn it.
Honestly, that's kind of a catchphrase in a lot of movies.
Yeah, that's just his.
Yeah.
Billy Bob in Bad Santa, he says a lot too.
Yeah. I would say I'd probably give this a B minus.
Okay.
It's kind of low, but
I mean,
I had it lower. So.
well, I'm gonna go with Corey on this, A plus. Like I love the character acting in their development. Like it works for me.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm gonna split the difference here. I give it a B. Like I like the flow of it and the arc for most of the people. I thought that like the violence and everything was a little excessive at the very, very beginning. I'm like, I can see why this would not have held up if it weren't for like, Siskel's approval and all this other stuff. Like, because it starts off with like,
Traumatizing.
it starts off with traumatizing murder and almost a rape. Maybe like we're not like, and then that's where we start. And then it goes, and you're like, okay, you're supposed to realize that these guys are the bad guys, but then you're supposed to feel bad for them later on. And I'm like,
I don't think you're supposed to feel bad
little
for
bits. Well,
yeah, I thought the film was going to have more gore because of that first scene. So
Yeah.
Prepared, and then it was just kind of a pop boiler. So I think that's why I was a little off on it.
yeah.
Not like this violence.
Beginning kind of
I
reminds
think-
me of
I think it makes
The tone was a little shifty.
I think it
throughout.
makes for a good bookend because like there's extreme violence at the beginning and then
Yeah.
like more emotional violence at the end.
No, that's a good
That's
point.
true. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it becomes
And then senseless violence in the middle where
I think that has I think
occasion
it has
kills.
to have
So, like,
Yeah.
there's brutal violence, senseless violence, and then emotional violence.
And then
This
there's
is probably-
Shakespearean violence wherever all the main characters die at the end.
Yeah.
Oh
true.
yeah, and then Shakespeare,
It's a true
it's very
tragedy.
Shakespearean.
The points you're all making me like it more because, like, if you think about it, Fantasia is the one that has to get the cop, but that brings her to the level of the other three men.
I was gonna say I think you have to have the
I mean,
inciting incident at the
killed
beginning of
somebody,
that
so-
violent. I think it has to be that ultra violent in order to get the attention of the LA police and start this
Mhm.
ban on across the country. So it has to be that
Sure.
violent.
Yeah. So you're making me
All
like
right.
it more. Maybe I'll move up to B.
You know what? Honestly, the beginning kind of reminded me of that violent act at the beginning kind of reminded me of Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer. If anybody remembers, there's actually a part where they break into somebody's house and they're being videotaped, so it's kind of the same way, but it's not nearly as docu-realistic.
Yeah. That dancing in the beginning was pretty good though.
Did you?
I feel bad for them.
Yeah.
See, I guess we have our grades, yeah. So,
There's a really wide spectrum here.
yeah. Not too bad. We never go down to F. That's the point. I guess we're trying to find
I
hidden
mean, yeah,
gems that
well,
we
we
don't
would
know.
have-
do-
we would have
we are
if we hadn't
seeing-
to change Cool as Ice to not be the main feature that time.
Yeah, I mean, we did that on purpose to ourselves. There
Yeah.
wasn't really anything.
That would have been an
else
F.
one.
I mean,
So-
again, Cool as Ice, like the cinematography is what made it good, but like
Yeah, there
oh my
What?
God.
You can
Yeah.
find
Oh, Jimmy.
things in even the worst.
Don't even look for a silver lining in that thing.
I mean, you know, gotta give it some. Vanilla Ice was in it.
That's
We're
why
here to find the good in the bad, and that's why we seek out the hidden.
Find the good and the bad and the ugly.
the weird.
Yeah, and the weird.